Hi, homeschoolers. I'm Heather. Welcome to another Homeschool Live presented by the Old Schoolhouse. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, I'll be interviewing Jessica Cantola of Classical Conversations. Before I introduce her, I would like to ask you to go ahead and share this video in your timeline, send it to any of your homeschooling friends, or go quickly and post to any homeschool-related groups that you're in. And as you watch, please comment, like, ask questions, and we will answer those near the end of the video. And now I am thrilled to introduce to you Jessica Cantola, who has 3 children and has been homeschooling for 5 years. She's a tutor for Foundations and Essentials, and she is passionate about classical conversations. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica.
Thank you.
As homeschoolers, I'm sure most of us have heard the term CC before, which is used to describe an incredible community of homeschoolers. Could you tell us what CC or Classical Conversations is?
So Classical Conversations is a movement made of home-centered education and community, teaching and using the tools of the classical method of learning to build a foundation of a lifetime of knowing God and making Him known.
Could you expound on what a classical education is?
Yes. So the classical approach to education, it teaches students or seeks to teach students how to learn and how to think. And it really sets them up for a lifetime of learning. It's actually a long tradition from years and years and years back that has emphasized the seeking after of truth, goodness, and beauty, as well as the study of liberal arts and great books. The classical approach utilizes the 3 phases or stages of learning, which is the grammar, the dialectic, and the rhetoric. It's also known as the trivium.
Okay. Could you share how Classical Conversations helps homeschooling families, especially during this time? I know a lot of people are looking, they've never homeschooled before, they're looking for a community, they're looking for help with homeschooling. How can Classical Conversations help new homeschoolers?
Well, when we began to look into home education, we did it with an eye towards educating for the long haul. So as in, our kids would begin schooling in the home and they would continue schooling in the home until they moved out of the home and were ready to take their schooling on to the next level on their own. Yeah. Education is a lifelong pursuit. Many families I know, especially in the current COVID climate, are unsure not only of what they're doing, but also for how long they're going to do it. And if they do pursue home education into the high school years, if they're going to pursue education into the high school years, they have no idea how to do it, how best to make that happen. Classical Conversations comes with a roadmap. It's the whole goal is to reach those further years. So not only for the rest of your kid's life, but also through high school. So wherever you stand in the learning levels of CC, you can look forward and you can see how the kids are being prepared for higher learning. Every little song they sing, the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, every little chant they use for their Latin declensions or history sentence, that becomes a peg upon which they are going to hang that information that they're going to use far into the challenge or the junior high school years, and even into the years beyond that. CC also comes with a built-in support system. So especially in the more seasoned groups, you're going to find moms who have been in the homeschool trenches for years. And that wisdom really brings to your community help with curriculum dilemmas and typical behavioral quandaries and honestly, just good old fellowship and camaraderie, which we really do need.
So could you explain, you mentioned challenge. Now that's for the older, and I think there's challenge A and challenge B. And then in the beginning, is it foundations that you start with? Could you go through the different levels and say the general age ranges or grades that is included within each level?
Yes. So foundation starts around 5 and it runs through 6th grade. This is my son. okay, can you go watch your show? Go watch your show. And it runs up through 6th grade. And then from 4th to 6th grade, they'll be doing foundations in the morning. And then in the afternoon, they do essentials. And so that is, and that's into 6th grade. And then from 7th grade and 8th grade, you hit challenge A and challenge B. And then the high school years are challenge 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. So how exactly does Classical Conversations work in the community aspect? You don't meet every day of the week, correct? Is it usually just one specific day that you will meet with everyone, and then they'll have like assignments they have to do? How exactly does that work?
We have our community day that we meet, and the tutors present the information that the kids are going to be working on memorizing through the week. And the in essentials, they'll be presenting the information on the different writing projects that are coming up, and then the kids work on those on their own through the week, and then present those at the next community day.
Okay.
So it really is a time to get together, see the information coming up for the week, kind of go back and forth about like what's a really good way to memorize this history sentence about manifest destiny, or this Latin declension is a little sticky. Oh, here's a great little song, or here's some hand motions. You have kids that really can really hang on to hand motions really well. So you do all the hand motions that you can think of, and then they work on memorizing those through the week.
That's awesome. So that's included in different subjects, right? Like history, there's timeline songs that you'll go over, and then you can even get a CD and listen to it in your car so the kids can practice, right? And then other songs for math, right, for skip counting and different things. So all across the board, these kids are memorizing, and like you said, getting these foundations for the older grades. That's so awesome. That's so great. So could you explain how the role of a tutor, you mentioned tutor. So my thought is a tutor isn't necessarily the teacher, but the parent is still the teacher. I think I know when I was looking at my options, I was looking at different co-ops in communities, and my husband and I were like, well, we're not sending our kids to public school because we don't like, their philosophies and theories and everything. So why would we send them to have somebody else teach them? But Classical Conversations is different because they're teaching out of, a Christian classical, curriculum. And like I said, they're not necessarily the teacher, they're just a tutor. And then the parent teaches the rest of the week. Is that right?
Yes. So tutor in the traditional sense is someone that you hire to teach your kids something that you either don't know or don't really want to teach. Like, some of the higher forms of math. No, I'm just kidding. That's kind of the traditional role of tutor. Whereas in Classical Conversations, the tutor really is the presenter of the information. So we spend time during the week getting ourselves ready as tutors, getting ourselves ready to present this information in a variety of ways that you can memorize to the kids. And then the parents and the parents. So it's highly recommended that the parents are in the class, at least with their youngest kid. If they have, a variety of kids, they typically stay in there with their youngest kid because that child is still kind of learning the ropes, learning how to memorize. And so as the tutor, I'm presenting this new information, and here's a great way to memorize this. We're familiar with the different ways of memorization. Sing a cute song, we have a chant, sometimes a cheer, hand motions. We bring in a lot of American Sign Language, so we'll, A, B, C. And so the kids are doing these things with their hands, and it's kind of connecting in their brain. And then sometimes the parents will go home and be like, you know what, I don't like that song. That really irritates me. So we're going to do it a different way. But as a tutor, I have given you at least, an idea of, here's the journey. Let's use the journey method, for memorizing these different aspects of the timeline. So that's pretty much our job. And then the teachers, the parent teachers are able to say, yes, let's incorporate that, or we'll change that up a little bit.
Awesome. So you said that a lot of times the kids will have assignments and then they come back the following time and then they have to present. Are there also opportunities such as science fairs? I know I've seen mock trials. What other kind of opportunities do kids have outside of just the day that they meet to present to other people?
So the challenge programs, which are junior and senior high, they as you said, they have mock trial. They will do a lot of times they will memorize lines of Shakespeare, whole segments of Shakespeare, and give those. They will memorize some of the great American documents and present those as well. We have sometimes different communities will do different things, of course, but there's always the opportunity to have different parents or even sometimes other kids in the community to come in and watch the challenge students present these things that they've been working so hard on. And they will do debates inside with themselves as well.
Okay.
Different kinds of policy debates. And what's really cool is they'll actually have to debate both sides. So you have to come prepared for both sides of the debate, which is, tough, because then you have to argue against, that this is right. But it's
right. What you believe. Yeah. That'd be hard.
It sets us up for a great future of thinkers to be able to, sit down and be able to argue logically with a good goal in mind, rather than just arguing for the sake of arguing, or just trying to further a specific narrative, rather than coming together and coming to a point.
Right. I mean, and they're taught to think, not just regurgitate information. I mean, yes, there's a lot of memorization, which I think is an awesome draw. I think that is so wonderful, especially for, the child that loves the challenge. I mean, I'm sure it's great for all kids, but I could just see my oldest son, he loves a challenge. So I think he would love to be able to, say, okay, I memorize this or I memorize that. But like you mentioned just being able to think. And I know logic is a huge aspect of classical conversations. And I went to, is it called a practicum, like a 3-day event? Because I wanted to know more about classical conversations. I think, they're probably offered everywhere in every state, or, I'm sure there's one near everybody at one point. The theme was logic that year. And I just was so engrossed in it, because I'm like, I never realized how important it is to understand this. So to learn how to think properly and how to think for yourselves, I just thought that was so incredible. So is that something that is, just woven into the curriculum throughout the years, or is that like a specific class that the kids take?
That is, so the challenge days look, you can go ahead, it's okay. The challenge days look different than the foundations and essentials days, because they start at 8 and end at about 3. Okay. And so they have what are called strands. And so they will have a logic strand in there. So, and those will be where they read a certain portion, they do some exercises, they come to class prepared to have a conversation. Their director facilitates the conversations, they talk amongst themselves, they do exercises together. And then at the end of the semester, which is what my oldest daughter is doing right now, they do blue books, which is a kind of a celebration of what they've learned, rather than going through the director sets them up with not necessarily some questions, but some direction to go for each strand. So for debate and for reasoning and for exposition, she sets them up with some options that they can take and run with, and they can compare and contrast some characters that they've read about, American heroes, books, and then they write all that down in their blue book, and are able to. We all can kind of celebrate. Look at what you've got in your head. That's amazing.
Aww, that's incredible. I was saying I went to that practicum, and what I thought was so cool is they also offered a camp for the kids. And the
Yes.
one I went to was the ones my kids attended was a geography camp, and I was just amazed at how much they learned in just 3 days. I mean, they just packed so much information. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming you're not having practicums right now because of everything going on, but when they're back on, I think anybody who is considering classical conversations to definitely try it out. And that was another question I had with, the current situation with the pandemic. Are classical conversations groups still meeting? Are they online, or does it just vary per state?
It's really varying per state.
Okay.
It's and gosh, even here in Oregon, things are changing so quickly. It's back and forth. We are small enough to where we have been able to still meet and stay in the safety parameters. So we're still legal, legit. But other areas I've seen, they are having to do hybrids. Some of them have gotten fairly clever to where they've actually broken their groups down into even smaller pods.
Okay,
and,
that's smart.
They had to bring in more tutors.
Yeah.
Well, you're a parent teacher, congratulations, but you also get to be a tutor this year. They break them down into 2 or 3 kids rather than the 5, 6, 7, 8. But we're still able to meet, and that's been awesome.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, a lot of parents are considering homeschooling. The new semester's coming up, and so this is an awesome option for them. If they don't feel confident doing it themselves, then this is, they'll have a tutor, and then they can also do what they want, on the other days, and it's an awesome opportunity for them. So I was wondering, could you describe what you see as one of the biggest challenges that parents face today while raising their children?
Well, right now, I'm going to say it's uncertainty, especially around the education. Like I was saying a minute ago, things are changing so fast in this current climate. Are people learning in person? Is it going to be another Zoom meeting? Is it some sort of hybrid? What are we doing? How long are we going to do this? So I think I would say public and homeschool parents, public school and homeschool parents are facing a lot of uncertainty, and I think that is a pretty big issue right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and if you think about the teens, that's what I love. You said in the beginning how everything that the kids learn in, the younger grades prepares them for the older grades. And it's like, those are usually the years that parents struggle with homeschooling. So they're getting ready. And then the high school years are just so rich, I think, in classical conversations. You provide so many opportunities for them. Whoever designed this knew exactly what they needed. I believe they have everything that they need to prepare them for the real world. And I think a lot of parents are scared, with all of the statistics saying that when kids graduate from high school, that they end up turning away from the Lord, they leave their churches, and apologetics is woven into this curriculum and logical thinking. So I think that for parents who might need to start homeschooling their kids in the high school years, this is an awesome opportunity for them, because kids, they don't, like you said, they don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what's going to happen with college? I mean, their dreams, so many kids' dreams are being shattered because they just don't know what to dream right now, because they don't know if they can go to college. They don't know what they can do, what jobs are going to be open for them in the future. So I just think this is just an incredible opportunity at this time, in history. I think this is awesome. My next question is, if you could give parents one piece of advice for their children, what would it be?
Okay, so this is really a hard one because homeschoolers are by nature so individualized. Even when belonging to communities or co-ops, movements, we're so special and different. So I would probably go down to the very bones of the reason why my family homeschools. It's about relationship. It's all about relationship. My relationship with my daughters and my son, and ultimately their relationship with God. Everything else serves that support system. Your relationship with those kids means far more than their next math score. Their understanding and knowledge of God is the foundation for everything else in their lives, for a lifetime of learning, for ordering their loves, for making God known to the world around them. And your relationship with them is what is going to start all of that.
Absolutely. I think we have some questions. Let me look over here and see what questions we have. Okay, Stephanie was wondering, okay, is it possible for students to do CC when they haven't done it in the past, and how difficult is it for them to catch up?
So it's very, very possible. My first daughter, we started in 4th grade. So she was public schooled up until then. And we went into foundations and essentials right off the bat, without any kind of that beautiful, wonderful memory prep that they work so hard on when they're little and through those foundation years. She just came in to a group of kids who had been together for pretty much their whole lives. She came in, I don't even think she knew what a noun was. Or a verb. And she came in and just put herself in it and just looked around and started doing the best that she could. And she was only in for 3 years. Usually kids will cycle through maybe twice. So they'll usually be in for about 6 years before they start to go up into the higher learning. So she only had 3, and she left the foundations and essentials going into challenge with just a beautiful, beautiful foundation of just those few years. And I've heard of students that have not even had any of the foundations and essentials learning, and they've gone into challenge. And it's definitely challenging. It's easier to be prepared going in to challenge with those years of foundations and essentials, which is why those were created, is to help support challenge. But you can definitely do it. The community and the way that you can learn how to scale for your student and say, this is what's being asked, but this is all you need to do. The parent is in complete control. They are able to look at it and say, this is what we're going to cut it down to this, and you're still going to succeed, and it's still going to be wonderful. And kids just blossom.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that about your daughter, because I think that encourages a lot of people who want to, start, but they're afraid that their child, hasn't had the preparation for it. So that's awesome. So Alicia wants to know, what is your favorite part of using CC, and is it hard to start?
So my favorite part of CC is the community. I was happy to not have to go it alone, stepping into this. My gosh, the magazines, the curriculum choices, it's all. I needed like this. This is the way. I needed the road to be able to go and then pull things in. So I started very. We use the term stick in the sand. I started very, very bare bones. And just did the bottom line. Like, let's just do what we have to do. And then I was able to add on to it in a way that made sense for my family, for my public school kid. And so it was not hard to start at all. You've got kids who have been doing it for years. You've got parents who've been doing it for years. And then you've got some brand new parents too. They're just kind of wide-eyed, like, I've never even heard that song before. I have no idea. And so you're really, really supported, and there's just so much grace. You go in and you've got some parents that are doing every single little thing, and then you've got other parents that are like, we're just going to do the one, It's all good. And it is. It's all
Right.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. And if a parent wanted to include something else on the side, like if they thought their child needed to learn a little bit more about something, like they absolutely can include that, right? I mean, they're not stuck to just a specific book or curriculum. This is a curriculum, but you can add to it, right?
Yeah. And it's not, it's really not a curriculum in that, you know, like Saxon math, or I can't think of another one, or The Good and the Beautiful. So it's not necessarily curriculum like that. It really is a foundation to build on. It gives you enough to where if you only use their foundations guide and you only memorize that, you're still going to come out with some absolutely wonderful things. But we will at times when we can work it in. I will add books to our morning time that have to do with the particular history sentence that we are memorizing. And so we are memorizing a history sentence about George Washington, but then I've also got who was George Washington. And, you know, and I've got this other little picture book over here about George Washington. And then we've got a picture of George Washington. So, you know, as far down the rabbit hole of George Washington I want to go, I'm able to go.
That's awesome.
And if we're having a rough week or something, or I'm just really not that interested in the subject, that we just will memorize the history sentence and move on.
So it's not like there's necessarily workbooks, like you said, like Saxon math, where you have to complete a workbook. It's more a philosophy, and it has like goals where the student has to achieve certain goals and be ready the next time they meet.
You not even, well, in the higher in challenge, yes. Because if you're able to achieve those goals, if you're able to do that assignment, then you're able to lend more to the conversation. You're able to build more on what you've already put in your brain. The lower levels really are pounding the pegs. They're creating in their mind palace, if you will. They're creating the rooms that they are going to store the information in, that they are going to go back and access once they're in those challenge years. And they can go back to their timeline, and they can, you know, kind of pull up that date and be like, okay, what do I know about that date? And then they're able to add or pull from that storehouse of that knowledge.
Well, that's incredible. So the last question I have for you is, could you please tell our audience how they can check out Classical Conversations?
So the first thing you'll want to do is attend an info meeting. And those are, they might be having them in person still in different places, but you can definitely find them on Zoom. If you go to classicalconversations.com, you can find all different kinds of meetings happening throughout the area or throughout the different times that you're available. It's great to have a face-to-face rundown, even if on Zoom, to see how, and to be able to ask real questions, to see, you know, how will this fit for me? Does this fit for me? Oh, that fits in a way that I didn't even consider before. That's amazing. And then after that, to go to a open house is really, really great. You get to go and sit and see all of this in action, hear the kids, see the tutors, see how it works. And I would highly recommend reading The Core by Lee Bortons. I know I'm going to sound like a sycophant, but it honestly did. It changed my whole education, my whole schooling paradigm. It talks about the classical method in general, talks about homeschooling in general, and then it talks about the Classical Conversations movement in particular, and it really impacted us.
Awesome. So if we go to classicalconversations.com, is there a way to find a director near us? And is that who we would contact? Okay.
They will. I looked it up briefly. They've changed it since I was doing the meetings. But yeah, there's pretty direct areas where you can go in and put your area in, and they show you what's available in that area. And they're usually really good about getting back on what time and where and, you know, what's available.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This has been extremely informative and encouraging. And thank you, viewers, for joining us for this Homeschool Live. If you're new to homeschooling, go and check out the homeschoolingprimer.com for a free info to help you get started in your homeschooling journey. I also want to mention that if you're watching this video live, that today is the first day of schoolhouseteachers.com's Fresh Start sale. So be sure to visit schoolhouseteachers.com to find out more information on how you can snag a monthly or annual rate to the Schoolhouse Teachers homeschooling platform. And if you would like the current edition of the Old Schoolhouse Magazine, visit grabissue.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Homeschool Live. Bye.